Kimetsu no Yaiba or Demon Slayer about, and why should you care? I mean, this video is pretty much being made to convince you to care, and I've been pushing the heck out of the show on my Twitter, so obviously I'm a really huge fan of it, but is it good enough to meet your interests? This series is about a young man named Tanjiro Kamado. He lives in questionable conditions with his immediate family in a wintry village, and he's super kind-hearted. Tanjiro is a coal seller, and on his way back home, he came upon a terrifying sight. Everyone in his home was killed and ripped apart brutally by some sort of creature. He notices that his sister still has some life in her, and he grabs her in order to make his escape from the area. Tanjiro's sister Nezuko was apparently infected by these demons and has become some weird sort of demon-human hybrid of sorts, and that doesn't fly with the official demon slayers. Obviously, it isn't normally allowable for there to be an existence like that in the world, especially since demons are dangerous, but Tanjiro hopes to protect his sister while he learns to wield the sword and all sorts of fancy blade arts. He hopes to eventually take down the demons responsible for his family's situation and also cure Nezuko of her illness. This is the premise of the show, and the anime is actually being done by well-known animation studio UFO Table, so it's going to look great. UFO Table is well known for doing the Fate animes and also the Tales of Zestiria anime as well, and both of those anime have huge action set pieces with all sorts of cinematic flame effects and whatnot, so they're a good fit for Kimetsu no Yaiba since the effects and older Japanese aesthetics are something that a good art director and studio could find a lot of value in and have a lot of fun with. Tanjiro comes across a number of people on his travels during the beginning of the story, and I actually want to explain who the main characters in the series are, since obviously Tanjiro isn't going to be taking on demons or training alone. His party is made up of 3 members for the most part, with Nezuko providing her own sort of weird role that we'll get into in later videos. For now, let's talk about the main trio, as well as some other characters that may pop up in the early episodes, and some key plot points to keep note of as the anime progresses. First off, of course, we have Tanjiro Kamado. Tanjiro has dark reddish hair with reddish eyes that have white diamond-shaped pupils in the center. His most noticeable feature is probably the scar that you can see on his forehead, and if you notice in the trailers or on the posters for the anime, there's actually 2 different designs for his scar. This gets explained in the series, and you actually see how he gets the scar, which I won't spoil here. Tanjiro wears suntag earrings and a jacket with a checkerboard design. He's rocking that Deku green, so you know we appreciate him, but underneath that jacket he wears a mostly black uniform. Tanjiro is only 13 at the start of the series, so that means he's not the tallest or most imposing character around. He stands at 5'4", and you'd think that that size would be a disadvantage, but Tanjiro is an extremely determined person and doesn't really let disadvantages get in his way. If he decides that he wants to do something, or even worse, that he has to, he's giving it his 1000%, even long term. Tanjiro actually reminds me of Mob from Mob Psycho 100 a little bit, because he shares a similar quality to that character that I really like to see, and that's really becoming common in modern anime main characters. I've noticed that authors really make their main characters good at emphasizing nowadays, and Tanjiro is another one of those characters. He's good at making friends, sure, but he's also good at understanding the reasons why people do things in certain ways, and the fact that good and bad isn't so cut and dry all the time. For this reason, even though he has a grudge against a certain demon in particular, Tanjiro sometimes has trouble killing demons because he's found common ground with them to a certain degree. What can he do? Well, I'm sure you're wondering about the power structure behind this anime and if the characters even have powers, since they haven't shown anything off in the trailers. What I will say is that Tanjiro and the others spend a lot of their time using amazing and well-honed sword techniques, but there are also other techniques that are a little bit more special. There are techniques that are going to have all sorts of special animation and even some moves that might have the Twitter timeline going wild. It isn't quite as flashy as quirks or telekinetic powers are over at Studio Bones, but if UFO Table wants to, I can easily see how they'd make the power structure in the series look like something crazy. It remains to be seen though. The next character we'll be talking about is Zenitsu Agatsuma. This guy is certainly interesting, and just like with Phil in The Promised Neverland, I'm calling that he'll definitely be an audience favorite this anime season. Zenitsu is a fellow swordsman and demon hunter, and he becomes close friends with Tanjiro and ultimately joins him on his journey to cure Nezuko. He's 16 when we meet him, and he definitely stands out. He has orange blondish hair with big eyebrows and dark brown eyes. His Haori is a gradient of blonde to orange that matches the tone of his hair, and it's covered in small white triangles with nothing on the inside. His leg guards have the same design, and underneath that he wears an all-black uniform. Zenitsu is an interesting character to talk about, but we can't really talk about why for a while. Just know that there's more to him than it seems, and he's definitely not just the crybaby coward that comes along for the ride. Zenitsu is going to definitely stand out and help Tanjiro and the others, but he's also going to be doing tons of comic relief. He's a bit of a pervert and he likes to ask women to marry him, and obviously being a perverted coward isn't much of a life, so wanting to live a better life, mostly for those that want to see him do well, Zenitsu is resolved to work hard if it means that he can become useful and live a decent life. He doesn't have the most confidence in himself, but part of that journey is growth, so let's give him a chance. Now then, there's the enigmatic and loud member of the group, Inosuke Hashibira. Inosuke is another interesting guy because, as you can see, he looks like a guy with a boar's head for a head. I've actually seen quite a few people thinking that this is somehow a boar-person hybrid that uses two swords to hunt demons, and while I'd love to watch that anime, no. Inosuke is definitely a person under the boar's head, and I won't say much further because that's actually a relevant plot point. Don't worry, it isn't a Kakashi situation where you'll have to wait almost 700 episodes to see his face. It will be revealed in time. Inosuke is 15 years old and he's a shirtless guy that wears a furry waist wrap and some loose pants. He's pretty much always seen with his boar's head on, and unlike Zenitsu and Tanjiro, Inosuke doesn't actually fight with Japanese katanas, in the traditional sense at least. He likes to dual wield two very large swords with super jagged edges, and this pretty much makes his swords like two large serrated saws or knives, and he uses his muscular build and high power to make use of it to cut chunks out of his enemies. Inosuke lives up in the mountains, and he's a pretty wild guy that stands out from our other two main characters in quite a few ways, but mostly in his hot-bloodedness. He's really naturally gifted at fighting and has a ferocious way of doing battle, but his number one asset is his sense of touch. He's developed a super sense, sort of like an animal, that lets him feel even small vibrations in the air. This makes him a potentially amazing hunter and demon hunter, but his loud mouth might get in the way of that. The next character we'll talk about is Nezuko Kamado, which is Tanjiro's sister. Nezuko was turned into some weird sort of demon, but right at the beginning of the series, we can actually see her as she was before the demon attack. Nezuko had her long black hair tied up in a bun and was taking care of some children. After the demon attack, she lets her hair out and it flows in collections of strands down around her. Her eyes are bright pink with a sort of gloss to them thanks to her demonic state, and her dress is also covered in a bunch of bright pinks. One thing that I love about this series is how colorful the characters' outfits are, even when a lot of the main characters primarily wear black under their colorful jackets. Seeing really colorful kimonos and haoris and abilities and powers should really contrast well against the muted colors of the demons in the backgrounds, so I'm really excited to see more and more characters pop up. Demon Nezuko has to have her mouth bound, and this is done pretty much by having her bite down on some bamboo so that she can't bite anybody else. She is much more feral than when she was a normal human, and it doesn't really seem like she's 100% aware of what's happening all the time. Either way, there's still pieces of her personality that shine through, and that makes it all the more important to defeat the demons and get her back to normal, because her personality shining through and her not being just a run-of-the-mill demon, another run-of-the-mill evil demon is very important to the series. You could see how it would create conflict to have a demon traveling with a bunch of people, so Tanjiro has to think up a strange but clever solution to that, so look forward to that in the first few episodes. Now that we've spoken about the main party of characters, we should also talk about some supporting characters and a few actually big league demon slayers that we'll meet in the first few episodes. First up, we have Giyu Tomioka. This is the cool, dark-haired Sasuke-looking swordsman that we've seen in a lot of the trailers for the anime so far. Giyu is 19 years old when we meet him, and he's an official demon hunter with some actual power and clout behind him. Giyu is one of the guys that you'd send in for something serious, and you can tell that from his cold aura and nature. He has long black hair that he wraps into a spiky ponytail, and his eyes are very dark altogether, sometimes being drawn as pitch black with small faded portions of gray or even blue on the outside edges. His haori is half crimson red and the other half has some Japanese patterns on it, giving both sides a distinctive look. A distinctive look from the clothes is all you'll get from this guy because he's pretty much stone face. He doesn't usually make a bunch of expressions because he's very about the job and serious. He doesn't show his vulnerable side at all, and in a lot of ways, he exemplifies that idea that most of us have about that cold and silent swordsman that's detached from everything else but justice. So what is he doing at the beginning of the story? Well, Giyu stumbles upon Tanjiro's situation post-demon attack and finds Nezuko on top of Tanjiro. Seeing a demon attacking a person, he instantly swept in and went for the kill. Let me tell you, he must have been being lax here, because when you find out some of the stuff that this guy can do, you'll find it hard to believe that he'd need more than one swing here. Look to see him more as we learn more about the demon hunters and the power hierarchy amongst them, but for now, be ready to see him make a more action-packed appearance in episode 1. You'll also see a beautiful young woman with dark eyes and a really beautiful Haori. Look out for her because she's super playful and fun, but also has some dark and cold eyes, and I think she's pretty mysterious. Finally, we will talk about the big bad himself, Mouzon. Mouzon is the Kirayoshi Kage demon-type villain of the series, and he's a major threat. Muzan Kibutsuji is a tall adult man of an unknown age with dark and short curly black hair and crimson red and orange eyes. He wears a crispy bright white hat with a red band wrapped around it, and he wears an all black suit that has some turquoise and red designs over certain portions. The top portion has intricate Versace style designs, which you can see around his white and gray almost velvet looking tie, which leads down to the red buttons of the jacket that stand out against the pitch blackness of the suit, almost like extra pairs of eyes coming from the darkness. He's the Dark King of Drip, but he's also a very important demon. We'll possibly see Tanjiro and the others cross paths with this guy, but they should steer clear of him because he's incredibly powerful. We'll get an information dump on this guy quickly in the series, so I'll do a video really breaking him down as we get to it in the series, I'm sure, but just know that things are probably going to go bad if this guy is around. That, my friends, is everything you could possibly need to know to go into Kimetsu no Yaiba episode 1 with a reasonable set of expectations and while being informed enough to know what's going on for those of you that have trouble keeping up with all of the crazy stuff going on in anime. Hopefully this video helps you and convinces anyone that's on the fence to watch the series. It's definitely going to be a standout show of the season, and it's just another in the line of Weekly Shonen Jump series running the anime relay race this year. We started this year with Promised Neverland, Kimetsu is here, and in the summer it'll pass it off to Dr. Stone, which will pass it off to My Hero Academia and probably Haikyuu later this year. So look forward to tons of content on the channel, and I can't wait to share some of the stuff that I've been working on in secret with you guys soon, but for now, I'm gonna go. But you guys can of course hit that like button or hit the bell icon to get notifications when I subscribe and join my league of notifications. If not, check back for another video to see if that one fits your interest more, as I'll be working on a few, but that's all. Peace.